Which country is wealthier than it looks, and which one is poorer than it seems? The Caribbean to both. It's one of the regions of the world with the greatest inequity. On most islands, you'll have a billionaire's sixth home next to a community full of folks who struggle to put food on the table. From an economic development perspective, it's really interesting because a handful of ultra-high net worth individuals taking up residence, even part-time, can skew the entire country's metrics like GDP and GDP per capita. As an example, and these figures are rough, the differ? I would say Iceland. It's wealthy, but it's even wealthier than most people realize, and sure as hell is a lot wealthier than it looks, with the largest pension fund per capita for non-oil producing nation at around $170,000 per person. Kazakhstan is definitely wealthier than it looks, and Cuba is far poorer than it looks. Wealthier than it looks, Botswana. Botswana really is an enormous success story in sub-Saharan Africa. Wealthier than it looks, Poland. Cities are modern and wages have been catching up. Poorer than it seems, UAE. Looks insanely rich, but a huge part of the population lives very differently from that image. India is the perfect contrast for both. Japan is poorer than it looks. Its economy has been stagnating for years. It has a lower GDP per capita than Estonia. Yet its streets are very clean, it looks fairly modern, and it's full of consumer goods. Norway is for sure wealthier than it looks. Ivory Coast, Senegal, practically most of currently peaceful West Africa. But the inequality is insane though. You'll see million-dollar villas 5 minutes away from slums of metal sheet housing, which itself is 10 minutes away from the dump that's been holding the entire country's trash for the past half a century and is completely over capacity. But no government agency has the budget for a new dump after all the corruption and kickbacks. The UK is really poorer than it seems once you're outside of the bigger cities. Ireland has a higher GDP per capita than Switzerland. Not by much, but I challenge you to find someone who, prior to knowing this, would put Ireland over Switzerland. Edit. GDP per capita, as noted below. Malaysia. Generally not much news comes out of the country. Most people only know it through the MH17 and MH370 airline incidents. For what it is, it's quite a developed country, peaceful, with a lot of urban infrastructures. The UK. You see the posh parts of London and nice houses in Notting Hill and cottages in the Cotswolds. Head up north and it's pretty depressing, tiny, poorly maintained terrace houses packed in high rates of crime and anti-social behavior, dead or dying high streets. Our economy is way too centralized around one city. Walk around some cities and towns in the country and you would not believe we are the 5th largest economy in the world. Our wages are dog shit, our cost of living is crazy. Australia for both. If you look at an area in the middle of the outback, I wouldn't blame you for thinking it's some outpost in Mauritania. The average salary of citizens is really high and has a proportionally high standard of living. However, despite the amazing-looking cities with good PT and life quality, in terms of GDP, it's actually quite poor for what it is. A massive continent with huge mineral deposits. We literally mine the deposits at our expense, export the minerals, then re-import the PR. The Philippines for both, but the country's wealthier side gets overshadowed by the shadow of rampant poverty in the country. When managed properly, the country actually can be one of the wealthiest countries in the region. It benefits from large biodiversity, strong economic ties in the global market, a strong influx of income from overseas Filipinos injecting their wealth back into the country, and a strength in diplomacy with neighbors and strong alliances like with the USA. The greatest eye. Sweden, honestly. GDP per capita looks fine, but disposable income for anyone under 40 is rough. Stockholm rent eats half a normal salary if you didn't get into the queue 10 years ago, and the queue is actually a queue, not a metaphor. Wages have been roughly flat in real terms since 2015. The Nordic Utopia posts on this site usually come from people who visited for a week. Taiwan is super wealthy, but doesn't look like it. The Stans and Iran are wealthier than they look. Many people think they're just poor countries in the middle of nowhere like Afghanistan, when in fact they enjoy better living conditions than many countries in South America, Africa, and Asia. I'll take Australia for both questions and 10 grand. In my opinion, Poland is much wealthier than people realize. It's often dismissed as a poor country, but that's simply not the case anymore. I'd also include Italy. It's frequently seen as a second-tier nation compared to the major global powers, but in reality, it holds immense wealth, with a huge concentration of millionaires, especially in the north. On the flip side, I think the USA and Brazil are poorer than they appear from the outside. Arguably, this exists everywhere. Some areas in the US look extremely poor, and miles away you have a megacity. Pakistan. Wealthier than numbers suggest. Ireland definitely does not look like its GDP suggests. Yeah, I know their GDP is heavily distorted, but still, it looks third world at times. Saudi Arabia is poorer than it appears. The oil wealth that sustained it for decades is declining. Cities outside the capital are underdeveloped. Unemployment is rampant. Younger members of the royal family and their affiliates don't care about the average Saudi and constantly flex their wealth on them. In the last few days, Saudi nationals have organized online campaigns to highlight the lack of government support, but because they cannot openly criticize Mohammed bin Salman, the king or the royal. New Zealand being first world country is hella overrated immo, born and raised here. All my friends joke that we should be downgraded a step faced with tears of joy.